the coronavirus pandemic.
Nel nome del Padre, del Figlio, dello Spirito. Preghiamo.
We pray.
Dio onnipotente e misericordioso, guarda la nostra dolorosa condizione, conforta i tuoi figli e apri i nostri cuori alla speranza, perché sentiamo in mezzo a noi la tua presenza di Padre. Per Cristo nostro Signore.
Almighty and merciful God, our Holy Father prayed, behold our sorrowful condition. Comfort your children and open our hearts to hope, so that we might feel your fatherly presence in our midst.
Ascoltate la parola del Signore dal Vangelo secondo Marco. In quel giorno, venuta la sera, Gesù disse ai suoi discepoli: passiamo all'altra riva. E congedata la folla.
From the Gospel according to Mark. On that day, as evening drew on, he said to them, let us cross to the other side. Leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. A violent squall came up, and waves were breaking over the boat, so that it was already filling up. Jesus was in the stern, asleep on a cushion.
Non ti importa che siamo perduti?
They woke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? He woke up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, Quiet, be still. The wind ceased, and there was great calm.
Perché avete paura?
Then he asked them, Why are you terrified? Do you not yet have faith?
E furono presi da grande timore e si dicevano l'un l'altro.
They were filled with great awe and said to one another, Who then is this, whom even wind and sea obey?
Venuta la sera, così inizia il Vangelo che abbiamo ascoltato.
When evening had come, the Gospel passage we have just heard begins like this. For weeks now it has been evening. Thick darkness has gathered over our squares, our streets, and our cities. It has taken over our lives, filling everything with a deafening silence and a distressing void that stops everything as it passes by. We feel it in the air. We notice in people's gestures. Their glances give them away. We find ourselves afraid and lost. Like the disciples in the Gospel, we were caught off guard by an unexpected turbulent storm. We have realized that we are on the same boat, all of us fragile and disoriented, but at the same time important and needed. All of us called to row together, each of us in need of comforting the other. All of us are on this boat, just like those disciples who spoke anxiously with one voice, saying, "We are perishing."
Ci siamo accorti
So
che
we
non
too have
possiamo andare
realized
avanti
that we cannot go on thinking of ourselves,
ma solo insieme.
but only together can we do this.
È facile ritrovarci in questo racconto. Quello che risulta difficile è capire l'atteggiamento di Gesù. Mentre i discepoli sono
It's
naturalmente
easy to
allarmati
recognize ourselves in this story. What is harder to understand is Jesus'
proprio
attitude.
nella parte della barca
While his disciples
che
are
per prima
quite
va a fondo.
naturally alarmed and desperate,
E che
he
cosa
stands
fa?
in the stern, in the
Nonostante
part
il
of the boat that
trambusto,
sinks
dorme
first.
sereno, fiducioso
And what does he
nel
do?
Padre.
In spite of the tempest, he
L'unica
sleeps
volta
on
in
soundly,
cui
trusting in the
nel Vangelo
Father.
vediamo Gesù che dorme.
This is the only time in the Gospels we see
Quando
Jesus
poi viene
sleeping.
svegliato,
When he wakes
dopo aver
up,
calmato il
after
vento e le
calming the
acque,
wind and the
si
waters,
rivolge ai
he
discepoli
turns
in
to the
tono di
disciples
rimprovero.
in a reproaching
Perché avete
voice.
paura?
Why are you afraid?
Non avete ancora fede?
Have you no faith?
Cerchiamo di comprendere in che cosa consiste la mancanza di fede dei
Let's try to
discepoli,
understand.
che si
In what does the
contrappone
lack
alla
of the
fiducia di Gesù.
disciples' faith consist as contrasted
Essi
with
non avevano
Jesus'
smesso di
trust?
credere in Lui,
They had not stopped believing in him. In fact,
ma
they
vediamo
called on
come
him.
lo invocano.
But
Maestro,
we see
non
how
ti
they call on
importa
him.
che siamo
Teacher,
perduti?
do you not care if we perish?
Non ti importa.
Do you not care?
Pensano che Gesù si disinteressi di loro.
They think that Jesus is not
che non si
interested
curi
in
di
them,
loro.
does not care about
Tra
them.
di noi, nelle nostre famiglie, una delle cose che fa più male è quando
One of the
ci
things that
sentiamo
hurts
dire,
us and our
"Non ti
families
importa
most
di me?"
is when we hear
È
it
una
said,
frase che
do you not
ferisce,
care about
che
me?
scatena tempeste nel cuore.
It's a phrase that wounds
Avrà
and
scompato
unleashes
Gesù,
storms in our hearts.
perché a
It would have
nessuno
shaken
più che a lui
Jesus too,
importa di
because
noi.
he, more than anyone,
Infatti,
cares about
una volta
us.
invocato,
Indeed,
salva i
once
suoi
they have
discepoli
called on him, he
si
saves his
dispiace.
disciples from their discouragement.
La tempesta smaschera la nostra vulnerabilità.
The
E lascia
storm
scoperte
exposes our vulnerability and uncovers those false and superfluous certainties around which we have constructed our daily schedules, our projects, our habits, and priorities.
Come abbiamo lasciato addormentato e abbandonato ciò che
It shows us how we have allowed ourselves to become dull and feeble, the very things that nourish, sustain, and strengthen our lives and our communities. The tempest lays bare all our prepackaged ideas and forgetfulness of what nourishes our people's souls. All those attempts that anesthetize us with ways of thinking and acting that supposedly save us, but instead prove incapable of putting us in touch with our roots and keeping alive the memory of those who have gone before us. We deprive ourselves of the antibodies we need to confront adversity. In this storm, the facade of those stereotypes with which we camouflage our egos, always worrying about our image, has fallen away, uncovering once more that blessed common belonging of which we cannot be deprived, our belonging as brothers and sisters.
Perché avete paura? Non avete ancora fede?
Why are you afraid? Have you yet no
Signore,
faith?
la tua parola stasera ci colpisce e ci
Lord,
riguarda tutti.
Your word this evening strikes
In
us
questo nostro mondo
and
che
regards
tu ami più di
all of
noi,
us in this
siamo
world that
andati
you love
avanti
more
a
than
tutta
we do.
velocità,
We have gone ahead at
sentendoci
breakneck
forti e capaci
speed,
di tutto,
feeling powerful
avidi di guadagno.
and able to do
Siamo
anything,
lasciati
greedy for
assorbire dalle
profit.
cose
We let
e
ourselves
trastonare
get
dalla fretta.
caught up in things and lured away by haste. We have not stopped before your reproach to us. We were not shaken awake by wars or injustice across the world, nor did we listen to the cry of the poor or of our gravely ailing planet. We carried on regardless, thinking we would stay healthy in a world that was sick. Now that we are in a stormy sea, we implore you, wake up, Lord. Why are you afraid? Have you yet no faith? Calling us to faith, which is not so much believing that you exist, but coming to you and trusting in you. This Lent, your call reverberates urgently. Be converted. Return to me with all your heart. You are calling us to seize this time of trial as a time of choosing, a moment of decision. It is not the time of your judgment, but of our judgment. A time to choose what matters and what passes away. A time to separate what is necessary from what is not. It is a time to get our lives back on track with regard to you, Lord, and to others. We can look to so many exemplary companions for the journey who, even though fearful, have reacted by giving their lives. This is the force of the Spirit poured out and fashioned in courageous and generous self-denial. It is the life in the Spirit that can redeem, value, and demonstrate how our lives are woven together and sustained by ordinary people, often forgotten people, who do not appear on the front page of newspapers and magazines, nor on the grand catwalks of the latest show, but who without any doubt are in these very days writing the decisive events of our time. Doctors, nurses, supermarket employees, cleaners, caregivers, providers of transport, law and order enforcement personnel, volunteers, priests, religious men and women, and so very many others who have understood that no one reaches salvation by themselves. In the face of so much suffering, where the authentic development of our peoples is assessed, we experience the priestly prayer of Jesus, that they may all be one. How many people every day are exercising patience and offering hope, taking care to sow not panic, but shared responsibility. How many fathers, mothers, grandparents, and teachers showing our children in small everyday gestures how to face up to and navigate a crisis by adjusting their routines, lifting their gaze, and fostering prayer. How many are praying, offering, and interceding for the good of all. Prayer and quiet service. These are our victorious weapons. Why are you afraid? Have you yet no faith? Faith begins when we realize we are in need of salvation. We are not self-sufficient. By ourselves, we founder. We need the Lord, like ancient navigators needed the stars. Let us invite Jesus into the boats of our lives. Let us hand over our fears to Him so that He can conquer them. Like the disciples, we will experience that with Him on board, there will be no shipwreck, because this is God's strength, turning to the good everything that happens to us, even the bad things. He brings serenity into our storms, because with God, life never dies. The Lord asks us, and in the midst of our tempest invites us to reawaken and put into practice that solidarity and hope capable of giving strength, support, and meaning to these hours when everything seems to be floundering. The Lord awakens so as to reawaken and revive our Easter faith. We have an anchor. By His cross we have been saved. We have a rudder. By His cross we have been redeemed. We have a hope. By His cross we have been healed and embraced, so that nothing and no one can separate us from His redeeming love. In the midst of isolation, when we are suffering from a lack of tenderness and opportunities to meet up, and we experience the loss of so many things, let us once again listen to the proclamation that saves us. He is risen and is living by our side. The Lord asks us from His cross to rediscover the life that awaits us, to look towards those who look to us, to strengthen, recognize, and foster the grace that lives within us. Let us not quench the wavering flame that never falters, and let us allow hope to be rekindled. Embracing His cross means finding the courage to embrace all the hardships of the present time, abandoning for a moment our eagerness for power and possessions in order to make room for the creativity that only the Spirit is capable of inspiring. It means finding the courage to make room for the creativity that only the Spirit is able to inspire. It means finding the courage to create spaces where everyone can recognize that they are called, and to allow new forms of hospitality, fraternity, and solidarity. By His cross we have been saved, in order to embrace hope, and let it strengthen and sustain all measures and all possible avenues for helping us protect ourselves and others. Embracing the Lord in order to embrace hope, this is the strength of faith, which frees us from fear and gives us hope. Why are you afraid? Have you yet no faith? Dear brothers and sisters, from this place that tells of Peter's rock-solid faith, I would like this evening to entrust all of you to the Lord through the intercession of Mary, health of the people, and star of the stormy sea, from this colonnade that embraces Rome and the world. May God's blessing come down upon you as a consoling embrace. Lord, bless the world. Give health to our bodies and comfort our hearts. You ask us not to be afraid, yet our faith is weak, Lord, and we are fearful. But you, Lord, do not leave us at the mercy of the storm. Tell us again, do not be afraid. And we, together with Peter,
ogni preoccupazione,
cast all our anxieties onto
perché
you,
sappiamo che tu hai cura di
because
noi.
we know that you care for us. Holy Father is now making his way to the icon. This is the real icon, generally housed in the Blessed Sacrament Chapel at the Basilica of St. Mary Major. He visits this icon before and after every apostolic journey and on every Marian feast. We join our Holy Father before this icon, imploring Our Lady Salus Populi Romani.
Subtum presidium confugimus, Sancta Dei Genitrix, nostras deprecationes ne despicias in necessitatis, sed a periculis functis libera nos semper, Virgo gloriosa et benedicta.
Our Holy Father now making his way before the miraculous crucifix.
Adoramus te, Christe, et benedicibus tibi, quia per
Holy Father has now touched this crucifix and blessed himself, perhaps we too can bless ourselves at this moment.
Parce Domini